Hello, my name is Rachel Sinowitz. I'm a graduating student of the University of North Georgia, and I am a screenwriter. From a young age, I loved storytelling. From reading to writing them, I was so enthralled by the adventure of storytelling that I often had issues depicting reality from fantasy. Once I got to high school, I would write short columns in the newspaper and submit my short stories to several different competitions that my high school held and others held. By the time I graduated in 2013, I was so unsure about what I wanted to do with my life. I knew writing was going to be a big part of it, but I wasn't sure how to make that dream a reality. So instead, I opted for an easier option. I went with the sciences. So I went to college as a pre-med major and did that for about 3 years until I realized that pre-med wasn't what it was cracked up to be. After about a year of being in college, I joined a sorority. It was a new sorority to the campus, and there was only about 50 of us. Next thing I knew, it was our Panhellenic Rush weekend, and we were starting to get new members. Nobody in my sorority really owned a DSLR camera, let alone knew how to operate one, so I, who owned one, came out, filmed the Rush weekend, and did a pretty okay job. After that, a lot of other sororities and fraternities and even some clubs reached out to me and asked me to film some events that had been going on. Right then, I knew that's the way I wanted my career to go. It was film. But shortly after filming all these events, I kind of got burnt out with the camera. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with film, but I knew I enjoyed it enough to where pre-med wasn't the right pathway for me. So I ended up leaving the sorority after about 1.5 years being in it, but I continued my dream and started to pursue film. In the beginning of the program, the world was my oyster. I was so overwhelmed with everything that went into film, from the developing stages to post-production, that I was so unsure about which pathway to take. I ended up taking my first screenwriting class. It was a writing for television class with Michael Lucker, and right then I knew my passion for writing was definitely something I wanted to continue with my career. And even later on, I found directing with Jason Nguyen, and I was able to put the knowledge that I found from Michael Lucker's writing class to Jason Nguyen's directing class and make my very first short film. During my time at UNG, I put a lot of energy into writing. I took as many screenwriting classes as I was able to, and any chance I got, I was writing. Even for other classes. If we were assigned a project and we were allowed to do anything with that project, I typically made it into a script of some kind. But there are 2 projects that I'm most proud of at my time at UNG. One was my very first short film that I made called Alone Time. It was for my Directing 1 class for Jason Nguyen. It is a short horror film that we spent about 2 days making, only to be less than about 5 minutes. It was definitely a struggle, but we powered through. And then my second is my adaptation script that I wrote for my adaptation class, and it's called The Judge's House. Both can be found on my website at www.babybeanproductions.wordpress.com, and I will leave a link below in the description box. These 2 projects taught me a lot about myself and who I wanted to be as a writer and just who I wanted to be in general about a filmmaker. My directing project taught me that there are 3 types of movies: the one you write, the one you shoot, and the one you edit. The final project, the one you edit, is way different than the one that you wrote. But it could also become even better than the one you wrote, and I found it really beautiful that these 3 different kinds of projects came from one script. With my adaptation script, it really tested me as a writer. I was able to take this idea that someone had and bring it to my own world and bring it to my own light. And with the correct tools and the correct crediting and everything like that, adaptation is so much more than just taking a book and writing it into a script. You can bring your own opinions, bring your own characters, bring your own issues, and that was something I was really passionate about this script, and it's one of my favorite things I have written this far. Now, the whole reason that we're here is because of my final script, Noah. Noah is a drama about a transgender male that has to fight to keep his identity a secret in the workplace while he's trying to save his company's biggest fashion show of the year that his coworker actually sabotaged him for because she found out that he was trans. With Noah, I had actually spent this whole entire past summer interviewing transgender men and women to get their input on how it is for them to either live in stealth in the workplace, to live out in the workplace, or how it feels if your identity is ever compromised and how it changes in the workplace from going to being your identity keeping a secret to being outed and, you know, just not being able to keep things to yourself. It was really a struggle for me to write a story like this in the beginning because I am not transgender. Where I have suffered a little bit of oppression in the workplace, I've never suffered anything to the extent that transgender males and transgender females suffer. I even collaborated with a few friends, and I wanted to see how they were affected by it. I learned a lot about myself as a writer and how isolation can really affect you as a writer, especially in these times, and especially if you want to interview people. When I interview somebody for a script, I want to be able to sit in a coffee shop with them, sit at their house, be able to, you know, comfort them and tell them, you know, I'm here, I'm with you, I hear you, I want to make sure these issues are known. And during this time, during Corona, I was unable to do that. I could only communicate with them through FaceTime, or emails, text messages. And it's just not the same, especially for a writer who connects through emotion. Now, with being in quarantine and with coronavirus happening, it has affected my capstone goals as a whole. Originally, my goal was to have Noah written and finished in the spring and direct it during the summer. I was even supposed to be in Italy back in May, and I was gonna, you know, have it finished then, and then we were gonna move on to directing once I came back. With Corona, we were unaware on how it would affect students, especially their abilities to film. So we decided that we were gonna scratch filming, and I was just gonna focus all of my time and energy on building this script the best way that it could be and spending all of my time perfecting it and making sure that I didn't leave out any details and that these transgender men and transgender women were portrayed beautifully and respectfully on screen. Coronavirus took a hard mental hit for me as well. I am a single mother who's a student, who works full-time, who moved to Atlanta, all within the middle of a pandemic and in my last semester of school, and it was the hardest thing I could have ever done. Thankfully, I have a full support system who helped me with this project during this time, during the pandemic, and I was able to get it done. But because of Corona, it definitely was a humbling experience because you definitely took for granted how much you were able to do before the pandemic started. We were able to go out and interview and collaborate, and I was even allowed to meet up with my other screenwriting friends and have them, you know, talk with me face to face. And it was just overall a humbling experience to have my last class in the middle of a pandemic and graduate in the middle of a pandemic. It was definitely hard for me, and I'm 100% sure it was definitely hard for my classmates and my professors and even my panelists as well. Noah and all of my other scripts and even my short film can be found on my website. Noah will be under the Noah tab. All my other scripts are under the portfolio, and Alone Time will have its own tab. Like I said, I will have a link down below. You are more than welcome to click on that and go view my website. My long-term career goals at the end of this all, if I'm deemed worthy to graduate, is to be a screenwriter and bring these issues, whether it's the LGBTQ community, minorities, with the climate of the Black Lives Matter movement. My goal is to ultimately bring all these issues to the screen, where I'm not opposed to writing other genres, but this is my passion. And I want the world and I want audiences to see, especially if they're a young queer girl or a young Black man trying to figure out, you know, who they are as a person, why the world hates them so much, that there are people out there who see what they see, who've gone through what they're going through, and that we hear you and we're there for you. And where some of us may not truly understand what you're going through, we are willing to sit down and listen. And we want to make sure the world is a better place for you, your children, your children's children, and so on and so forth. All in all, my experience at UNG has definitely been one of the most positive ones I've ever had. I've enjoyed learning from those who took time out of their days to teach me and guide me in the classroom and outside the classroom. You know, I spent 7 years in college, 3 of which had nothing to do with what I wanted to do with my life, but it led me to the people that I know and the relationships I have today. And for that, I will be forever thankful for my peers, my professors, and anyone else who I've met throughout this program. I want to thank you all for joining me today, and I look forward to reading your reviews. The email I had sent you also has my website, and it has my final capstone script attached to it. If you have any questions or feel the need to reach out, you're more than welcome to reach out to me at any time. I hope you guys have stayed safe, and I look forward to hearing back from you guys.